Раз, два, три. Один, два, три.
Раз, два, три, четыре, пять, шесть, семь. 7. Раз, два, три. Раз, два, три. Раз, два, три, четыре, пять, шесть, семь.
Один, два, три, раз, два, три. Раз, два, три, четыре, пять. Один, два, три, раз, два, три, четыре, пять, шесть, семь. Один, два, три, раз, два, три, четыре, пять. Раз, два, три, четыре, пять, шесть, семь. Раз, два, три. Один, два, три. Раз, два, три, четыре, пять. Раз, два, три, четыре, пять, шесть, семь. Один, два, три, четыре, пять, шесть, семь. Раз, два, три, четыре, пять, шесть, семь. 1, 2, 3. Один, два, три. Один, два, три. Раз, два, три. Раз, два, три. Раз, два, три. Один, два, три. Раз, два, три. Один, два, три. Раз, два, три. Раз, два, три, 7.
Раз, два, три, четыре, пять. Раз. Спасибо, слышно.
My name is Cristina Lucrezia Corner. I will be the honored Master of Ceremonies for these 2 days. I'm really very honored to welcome you in Astana for this 12th edition of the International Workshop P2P Financial Systems, hosted in these amazing premises of the National Bank of Kazakhstan. We are here in the right place, in the right moment, and we will be talking about this amazing agenda that is being developed here in Astana, in Kazakhstan, to develop the new ecosystem for the digital future. And I'm really honored to welcome, for the welcoming address, the Governor of the National Bank of Kazakhstan, Timur Suleimanov. Timur Muratovich, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction, and I'm really honored to welcome all of the guests that are present here in Kazakhstan. As has been mentioned, this is the first time in 12 years that this conference is held in Central Asia, which I think proves 2 points: that financial innovation and inclusion is equally important throughout all of the world, and that Central Asia is becoming one of the hubs, really, of this rapid technological and financial development. So welcome to all of us, and it's a great pleasure and honor for us as the National Bank to be hosting this conference. Well, I guess we all know that we're witnessing one of the most significant transformations of the global financial architecture. Artificial intelligence, fintech, digital assets, and central banks, digital currencies are changing the financial services, payment infrastructure, and the very manner of the way the money circulates in the economy. And for us, regulators, central banks, of course, that creates a lot of opportunities, and well, opportunities are mostly for the people and the markets, and for us it creates a lot of new challenges as well. So on one hand, of course, it improves financial inclusion, efficiency of financial services, supports innovation. On the other hand, of course, we have to face the challenges of ensuring financial stability, competition, security, consumer protection, and overall maintaining the trust into financial system. So, and that, of course, is prompting us, central banks, to move beyond our traditional roles as regulators of monetary circulation and become, well, maybe it's too strong a word, but architects of the new digital financial environment. When it comes to Kazakhstan, we obviously view digital transformation as a strategic priority for our country. Today, about 94% of retail payments are already conducted online through digital means, and all basic financial services are available remotely. Open banking and digital identification continue to develop rapidly. This progress reflects a strong synergy between GovTech and FinTech. Financial institutions have become one of the main channels for citizens and businesses to access digital public services and business services. At the core of this transformation lies the national digital financial infrastructure, which provides secure and interoperable rails for payments, identification, data exchange, and new digital services. The scale of this shift is reflected in its operational indicators. Last year, the turnover of the payment market exceeded 1.5 quadrillion tenge. The volume of QR code payments amounted to 3.8 billion transactions, totaling 20.1 trillion tenge, easily surpassing the, well, we already call them traditional transactions through point-of-sale terminals. And the bulk of this transaction is processed through the national digital financial infrastructure, the aforementioned, which is run by the National Bank and therefore is equidistant for all market participants, big or small. Today, this level of digital penetration is increasingly perceived by both markets, regulators, and citizens alike as a basic standard. In this regard, since 2025, the National Bank, together with all other agencies, Financial Regulation Agency, the Ministry of Digital, the Astana International Financial Center, we have started to implement a comprehensive digital transformation across several key areas. The first area is the development of regulated market for digital assets and fintech industry. Kazakhstan is building a transparent, regulated ecosystem for digital assets, including digital financial assets, stable coins, RWAs, and crypto assets infrastructure. Crypto fiat channels have already been established through more than 10 commercial banks. We have 6 tokenization platforms fully operational, and so far we have issued, the market has issued 3 tenge-denominated stablecoins. New products and business models in this area are currently being tested in the National Bank's regulatory sandbox. In 2025, the regulatory perimeter for the digital assets market was finally completed. As you know, we started back in 2022, but we started slowly and carefully with this Astana International Financial Center jurisdiction, but then we saw that the market needed more, the market needed and required integration into traditional financial channels, and therefore the 2025 marked the year when we established the countrywide, the national regulation of the crypto circulation. So basically this is the foundation of the new sector, the cyber crypto financial sector of our economy. So today we are forming the unified, synergetic ecosystem for digital assets based on close cooperation between the general jurisdiction, the AIFC, and now more than ever with Alatau City. I think we have our colleagues from Alatau City Authority remember the name. It will be one of the big things in Kazakhstan for the years to come. So this cooperation makes it possible for the best elements of all jurisdictions, all regulations, international financial expertise and areas of specialization to be put into very good practical use for the greater good of Kazakhstan's economy and financial sector. And of course, strengthen our position of the digital financial hub in the region. To accelerate the build-out of the crypto market infrastructure, the Kazakhstan Stock Exchange, which is majority owned by the National Bank of Kazakhstan, has been more or less motivated and instructed to go ahead first. So we kind of pushed and nudged our own exchanges to go ahead and obtain registration with the National Bank to provide service as an operator of digital financial assets and to carry out activities of the platform, of digital financial assets trading platform as well. So the first licenses have been issued, and this just shows our approach that we're not waiting for the market to catch up with the regulation. We more or less built out the regulation and the infrastructural part in parallel. So basically on May 1st, the regulation came into force, and basically a couple of weeks later, the first license was issued to the Kazakhstan Stock Exchange. And I think this approach of having both traditional finance and digital finance under one roof, it's by no means is unique to Kazakhstan, but I think it shows a very good approach where you have to integrate and then have sort of the best of both worlds, digital and traditional. It makes the teams, makes the management all to be aligned along the same goals. We need to unify and get the synergies out. So the second area of the joint work that we're doing here in Kazakhstan is, of course, introduction of artificial intelligence into both activities of financial regulators and the market itself. And this year we have launched 20 plus practical AI solutions. Well, they're now not very unique. I think a lot of central banks and regulators pioneer and play with the with artificial intelligence project. Of course, they will be related to supervisory, regulatory, analytics, and I think very important one is fraud prevention. Namely, we have the National Anti-Fraud Center, which helps us to fight the crime, and in that area, introduction of artificial intelligence helped the officers at relevant agencies to identify the financial fraud 80 times faster. And to date, more than 140 fraudulent incidents have been prevented from happening. So the third area is the development of digital tenge, the CBDC of Kazakhstan, and the national digital financial infrastructure as a whole. So basically, as you know, Kazakhstan is pretty developed in terms of retail payments, online payments, and therefore we didn't go into retail, not to compete with the market, but we decided that wholesale, basically earmarking, programming the public expenditure is more important for us. The state is pretty big in Kazakhstan. We have a lot of projects financed either through the state agencies directly, or even more so via state-owned enterprises. So basically, we want those money to be put into very good and transparent use. So that's why we already issued 340 billion digital tenge. One of the key, two of the very large infrastructural projects, one railroad and the other one is the gas pipeline, have been conducted and concluded in digital tenge, which allowed us to see how that needs to be approached, what sort of intra-agency cooperation you will need, what sort of infrastructural tie-ins and linkings you will require with respect to different information systems. So that has equipped us with a huge practical toolkit, and that's why we have a very strong support from the government, which basically, of course, operates the public expenditure. And in 2027, we will increase the amount of projects to be financed through CBDC, through digital tenge, to 1 trillion tenge. And that is the key focus for CBDC in Kazakhstan. At the same time, of course, we are developing the national payment infrastructure, the unified or national QR system, anti-fraud system, open banking, and digital identification systems. Well, dear colleagues, distinguished guests, of course, I think that this is crucial to develop this sector, while at the same time maintaining the security and balance between innovation, stability, competition. That is why the role of regulators, central banks, is changing very rapidly. And we must not only ensure the stability of the monetary and financial system, so the price stability, financial stability, they remain. This is something that we cannot eliminate from our DNA, and this is something that we're required by the law to do. But at the same time, I think our role changes. In many ways, we need not only to come up with the modern day regulation, but also with infrastructure, because to wait for the market to come up with infrastructure, especially when you have larger financial players, when you're running risk of having a closed ecosystems, that's why you have to create the regulation and the infrastructure for the market so that it develops coherently and with as much competition as possible. And this is something that we're doing here. So basically, we as regulators, we must adapt, we must change and embrace new roles. Well, I know that over the course of this day and tomorrow, there will be a lot of discussions related to anything from AI on the financial market to security, maintaining competition, and all sorts of things in between. So once again, we're privileged and honored to have all of you here in Kazakhstan, and we do hope that this will be a very practical, hands-on seminar, which will enrich all of us, and we will go back to our countries and do something better for our citizens and businesses. So the best of luck to all of us, and we're very happy to see you in Kazakhstan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think one of the most key concepts of this workshop has been amazingly discussed by this welcoming speech, the synergy of the traditional and innovative finance. And who else than the founder of this workshop that has taken place in 12 years in different central banks around the world, including Germany, Uruguay, Vara in Dubai, and different academic institutions. This person is here, and this person is responsible for bringing these amazing people here. The founder and the chairman of the Exponential Science Foundation, the founder of the UCL Center for Blockchain Technologies, Paolo Tasca. Paolo, please, welcome on stage.
Too kind, Christina. Kallitan. Good morning, everybody, colleagues and friends. Thank you to be here. I'm very happy to see familiar faces also who travel so far, so long to come here. Yes, Christina, as you reminded this workshop, I did kick off this workshop when I was working at the Central Bank of Germany in 2015. And I'm very pleased in this room now to see how far we went here in Astana at the National Bank of Kazakhstan. So let me start thanking Mr. Governor Timur Suleimanov and for his welcome address. And I want to share my sincere gratitude to the National Bank of Kazakhstan for hosting us in this amazing building, I want to say. I also would like to thank the Deputy Governor, Binur Zharenov, the National Payment Corporation in Kazakhstan, the Astana International Financial Center, Kazakhstan Stock Exchange, the Kazakhstan Central Security Depository and the Ministry of AI and Digital Development for having helped make this gathering possible. So thank you. So today we open, as also you, Mr. Governor, said, a new chapter here in Central Asia. It's the first time that we come in this part of the world since 2015 when we launched this workshop. We started with a simple idea, but a bit ambitious, and I think we share this vision because our goal with this workshop is to bring together under the same room central bankers, regulators, engineers, inventors, entrepreneurs, investors, to discuss how these new technologies are shaping the new forms of money, banking, and finance. So this mission continues. This mission remains the same. And this is an open forum, an open dialogue, an honest dialogue where we face reality, where public institutions can meet innovation, where researchers and academics meet market reality, and where all the enthusiasm for these new technologies must be boiled down and meet the concern that arise from stability, from the privacy, from integrity, inclusion, sovereignty, and trust. I'm very glad that you, Mr. Governor, mentioned trust in your speech because this is a key driver of my speech too. So I think trust is actually the main ingredients of this new financial world that is, unfolding. As Christina reminded, this workshop, this event traveled the world. It has been hosted by prestigious central banks, including the European Central Bank and the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland. We had very prestigious speakers in the past editions, and I'm very happy to bring now here in Astana. This is not accidental, and Mr. Governor already mentioned many reasons why we are here, and I'm not going to repeat the reason. So I'm going to cut my speech so you are very lucky that I will short and we will start the event sooner. But the main reason is that Kazakhstan is not just talking about financial innovation. Kazakhstan is building it. The Digital Tenge is the most advanced initiative of central bank digital currencies in the world, I would say. And all these activities that has been done and described before with the Digital Tenge, with the government-related payments, infrastructure financing, public procurement, entrepreneurial support, and other activities, show to us that are coming from abroad how Kazakhstan is looking at central bank digital currencies, not just as a currency, but as a new layer of monetary infrastructure. a new layer of monetary infrastructure that need to resort on trust, governance, security, and accountability. And also, as the governor mentioned, Kazakhstan moved beyond the central bank digital currency with a regulatory sandbox in collaboration with other financial market authorities. And all these activities basically tell us that Kazakhstan is not treating digital assets and crypto assets simply as a speculation tool, but they are asking themselves deeper questions, and they are finding a solution to these questions. How can digital assets can be brought inside a regulated financial architecture? How can they be supervised? How can they interact safely with the banks? How they can protect consumers? How they can support capital formation? How they can become useful for the real economy? This is why Astana is the right place for this event. Because the future of finance, actually, is not an abstract debate. It's visible in the digital triangle, is visible in the regulatory sandbox, is visible in the work on stable coins and tokenized assets, real-world assets, is visible in the development of the open banking and digital identity in the national payment infrastructure. And is visible by looking at the constructive dialogue between the National Bank, the National Payment Corporation, the Astana International Financial Center, the Astana Financial Service Authority, the Kazakhstan Stock Exchange, the Security Depository, together with the private sector, startups, commercial banks, fintechs, crypto exchange. This is basically how the new financial system is led here. It's not led alone, but is guided, tested, supervised, and connected to public purpose. And let me say that having been working in different countries over the last years on these topics of CBDC and financial technology, I can say that it's very, very, very rare, very unique to witness such a high level of integration, honest, open, constructive, collaborative approach between these big institutions, even though they are from the same country. This is very unique, and I think this is the strength of Kazakhstan. So the question that we bring now here this year is actually a bit deeper than the one we started in 2015, which is about how technology can impact the new way of finance, the new way of payment, the new way of banking. The question is deeper, and the question is about how can sovereign digital infrastructure reshape the financial system while preserving at the same time stability, privacy, competition, inclusion, and public trust. Over the next 2 days, as mentioned before, we're going to address these questions by looking at the mechanics of Kazakhstan crypto ecosystem in Astana, by looking at the CBDC adoption and open banking, by exploring how the Alataw city and how the Central Asia digital success in relative blueprint for this new financial world. And we are covering all these different type of topics which are not separated between each other. They are part of the same transformation, because money is becoming programmable, assets are becoming tokenized, payments are becoming instant and increasingly borderless, compliance is becoming data-driven, financial intelligence is becoming AI-enabled, and public infrastructure is becoming digital. And digital infrastructure are becoming basically the new dimension of the monetary system, of the monetary power. And on this point, I would like to open a short bracket, because this new digital infrastructure that is becoming the new monetary power is basically part of a more complex dynamic that is unfolding ahead of us, which is basically the global struggle for currency supremacy. I wrote an article about this a few years ago, and this is a long-term dynamic that is unfolding at the global scale where technology, the use of technology can help a lot. What I say about this, I mean that currencies at the global scale are no longer competing only, I say only, on macroeconomic fundamentals like interest rates, inflation, trade surplus and deficits, but they are increasingly competing also on the technological rails, data integrity, infrastructure, network effects, and governance. So, if you look at what's happening in the last years in the public discourse, there is this type of debates about the US dollar's dominance as a global reserve. And many say, okay, the dollar will be dethroned maybe by some cryptocurrencies, maybe by some other digital assets. But, I mean, if we look at the dynamics, these are all legitimate questions, you know. If you look at the foreign exchange reserves across the countries held by different countries, you observe that the reserve holding the US dollar decreased from 71, 72% in 2000 to 56, 57% in 2025, in favor of other currencies, including the renminbi. So the question is legitimate, but the right question I think is not how the dollars will be dethroned, but what will be the mix of possible alternatives that today evolving financial landscape can offer to governments pursuing a geopolitical advantage. So to be frank, this is a difficult question. This is even a difficult period, potentially even destabilizing period of transition toward what I call a complex mix of state, government control, and non-state, privately controlled alternatives. Consider, for example, the geopolitical shift underway. All the original BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa have already launched central bank digital currency programs. The China digital renminbi, introduced as a pilot in 2020, has the potential to become the basis for a non-US controlled international payment railway. And at the same time, we have this growing explosion of platformization. If you look at the NASDAQ, the top companies are platform-based companies. So the contribution of the platform economy is growing in terms of contribution to the global GDP. And platform by platform, I mean a platform like TikTok. Platforms that operate globally, they don't resort in any currency, they don't require cash like a traditional pipeline business model. And for this reason, they gradually can diminish the reliance on US regulatory power over physical trade, which is typical of a traditional pipeline business model. So this is a problem that the West part of the world is aware of, and I would say that the US trade tactics and tariff threats, without sounding too much political, I would say even aggressive US trade tactics and tariff threats, are bound to accelerate effort by other nations to challenge the dollar status as the world reserve currency. To counter this risk, the US administration at the same time is embracing privately issued stablecoins. This is a strategy to maintain the dollar dominance without having to embrace the multilateralism. These stablecoins operate pretty much free from regulatory scrutiny and supervision, but they remain very much vulnerable because they run outside the direct link with access to the Federal Reserve liquidity facilities. And if this dynamic continue, in the next years, this creates a profound dilemma for the rest of the world. If there is a growing adoption of USD, or US dollar peg stable coins in the world, and these are adopted in other currency areas, this can create some form of what I can call digital dollarization. And as we speak, there are about $300 billion circulating every day of US dollars pegged stable coins. 5 years ago, they were 11 billion. So these digital US dollars are growing in size year after year. So the risk is very big. The risk is that this growing of these US pegged stable coins, unregulated stable coins, can weaken the local monetary policy transmission. They can create a foreign exchange mismatch for households and firms. They can limit the local central bank's role as a lender or last resort. This is exactly why we are witnessing the emergence of, and what I think is needed, of a multi-chain new financial system order. This is very much needed, because I think that there will be no single cryptocurrency that will run the world. There will be no single blockchain that will run the world, and we meet all the needs of the global financial system. We are actually envisaging the expansion of what I call a network of networks, a multi-network level of public-private heterogeneous DLT, distributed ledger technology-based architecture that interacts with non-DLT, non-blockchain-based financial infrastructure to exchange information and value through key components or mechanism, that is interoperability. So this is a very much necessary step that the world is taking toward this multi-chain financial system order. And at the end, when this will be, reaching the conclusion, the final stage of maturity, we will observe that the monetary power will depend less on who prints the most widely used currency, but the monetary power will depend more on who will build the rails that people can trust and who can orchestrate the global data flow in a secure manner. So here, as always, we try to be honest at the P2P financial system workshops. This creates fantastic opportunities to reduce payment frictions, to access finance, to making public spending more transparent, more efficiency in the markets, a new channel for investments, for cross-border payments, and so on. But this also can bring many risks. And we have seen how these, blockchain systems in the early phase have failed. Risk of fraud. I don't need to remind you the FTX, scandals of $10 billion when out of the markets. Risk of cyber attacks. Risk of regulatory arbitrage. Well, I don't want to say the obvious, but everybody knows why Tether, that is controlling USDT, move from Switzerland to El Salvador. Risk of excessive concentration on algorithm. So the risk that we give too much faith to algorithms is a solid risk. Everybody remember what happened with the stable coin Terra Luna that wiped out from the market about $60 billion in a matter of days. Risk of exclusion, and risk that private platforms may become more powerful than institutions that are supposed to govern them. And also the risk of AI. on which we put a lot of faith, risk that the AI can take decisions that are biased, opaque, and even difficult to challenge. Actually, an AI model run on an unstoppable blockchain would be very dangerous if the AI model is wrong. So then, overall consider, when it comes to these new financial technologies, decentralized finance, programmable money, digital platform, I think everything boils down to good governance. Who has the authority to issue money? Who controls the payment rails? Who owns the financial data? Who writes the codes? Who audits the algorithm? Who supervises the markets? Who protects the consumers? Who is accountable if something goes wrong? These are the questions I think good governance should ask. Some people still believe, that machines, let alone, can run automatically, obtain fairness, transparency, and efficiency. So we don't need humans. Well, this is a powerful myth, but I think this still remains a myth. Technology can reduce some form of frictions and discretion for sure, but technology cannot eliminate governance. Code is never neutral. Code embeds choices. It embeds assumptions about identity, access, privacy risk, compliance, and power. A smart contract may execute automatically, but somebody designed it. A blockchain may be decentralized in theory, but in practice the governance, the infrastructure, the ownership, the influence can be very much centralized. Also a stable coin may be global, may be transmitted globally at the global scale, but the reserves, the redemption rights, the legal structure, and the supervisory framework remain deeply institutional questions. And also the central bank digital currency may improve payment efficiency, but they need to answer, a dilemma, which is basically how to balance, between privacy, scalability, and security, which comes at odds when you design a central bank digital currency. So the real question is not whether the future of finance will be centralized or decentralized. The real question is what should be decentralized, what should remain accountable for the public authority, and what governance architecture can connect innovation with trust. This is the trade-off that we need to examine between programmability and privacy, between speed and safety, between openness and compliance, between innovation and consumer protection, between public infrastructure and private infrastructure. And this is exactly why, the presence of central banks, regulators, entrepreneurs, academics in the same room is so much important. No single group can solve these questions alone together. So academic can test assumptions, regulators can define the boundaries, central bank can safeguard the monetary trust and financial stability, entrepreneurs can build, and market infrastructure can operationalize the trust. But only together we can design this financial system that is not only technically impressive, but institutionally credible. So the lesson I learned over the last 10 years, 12 years actually, by organizing this fantastic event, is that by sharing this idea and opinion with esteemed colleagues and friends, I think that the future of finance will not basically decided by who ran the fastest blockchain, or they run the most advanced AI model, or the largest blockchain. I learned that the future of finance will be decided by who can be the rails that people can trust. Rails that are resilient, rails that are auditable, rails that protect privacy without enabling crime, rates that support innovation without weakening monetary sovereignty, rates that include citizens rather than simply extracting data from them, and rates that serve the real economy. So Kazakhstan progress in these matters basically show that a country can move from isolated digital asset debate to a broader national digital financial architecture. And, you know, the digital tenge, the tokenization, the stable coin, the regulatory sandbox, the crypto cards, the AI, open banking, and so on, they are part of the larger question. How does a country build a financial sovereignty in the digital age? And I think this is the question that every country, actually in this moment, in this very moment, they should try to answer. So how they can reach financial sovereignty in the digital age. This is the time. The time, I think, of dollar dominance may be over sooner than what we do expect. So financial sovereignty today is no longer only about controlling the supply of money. It's also about controlling the infrastructure. It's about data integrity, identity system, payment networks, settlement finality, cybersecurity, regulatory credibility. And this is about the ability for citizens and firms to trust, as I said before, the rails on which economic life depends. So Central Asia, I think, is not at the margin of this financial innovation. It's becoming one of the most important laboratories. And all this work done by this esteemed, and important institution like the National Bank of Kazakhstan are basically important step toward this new financial system. Let me conclude thanking again the National Bank of Kazakhstan for its leadership and hospitality, the Governor Timur Suleimanov, the Deputy Governor Binur Zhalenov, the National Payment Corporation of Kazakhstan, the Astana Financial Service Authority, Astana International Financial Center, and all institutional partners who have supported this edition. I would like to thank also the speakers, the moderators, the paper representatives that we are going to watch and listen over the next few days, who travel Central Asia and across the world to come here, the scientific committee of the P2P financial system workshops, that help to curate the quality of the papers that will be presented, and all the organizing committee of the P2P, amazing team, Exponential Science, the UK Center for Blockchain Technologies, the Mika Crypto Alliance, and the partners like Solana, the FinTech network of Kazakhstan, and Telegram, for bringing this 12th edition to life. I believe that the work we begin here in Astana can help shape a new chapter in this global conversation between money, technology, and trust, a chapter in which digital finance is not only faster, but safer, not only more efficient, but more inclusive, not only more programmable, but more accountable, not only more global, but also more respectful of national sovereignty and public purpose. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paolo. So we are kicking off with this marvel that is taking place here in Kazakhstan. We will be having a representative of the National Bank, represented here at the panel by Binur Zhalenov, Chief Digital Officer and advisor to the Governor of the National Bank of Kazakhstan, who has all this digital agenda under his mandate. We will be having Astana International Finance Center represented by its Governor Renat Bekturov, the head of the institution that sits at the center of the licensing process. We will be having Alibek Saylanbayev, National Information Technologies Managing Director of AI, to talk about the AI framework that is taking place here in Kazakhstan. And last but not least, the Alatau City Authority, a marvelous, ambitious urban and infrastructure project represented by its Chief Regulatory Policy Officer, Arman Tastanbekov. And this panel will be moderated by Takeshi Kito, co-founder and CEO of the Global Finance and Technology Network of Japan. Thank you so much. Please, the speakers, take your seats.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. I'm so delighted to here to moderate this opening panel discussion together with the four distinguished panelists who are representing the different part of the Kazakh crypto ecosystems and regulators. So today we will talk about how Kazakhstan is shaping one of the most vibrant and quite active evolving crypto ecosystems in its Central Asian region. And to kickstart this discussion, I'd like to ask all of you to answer the single quick question, which is what is the most important change in your organization's approach? Okay, in shaping the crypto ecosystem and regulating the digital asset. So let me start with Binur. So what is the LBK's most important regulatory decision on digital assets in the past year?
First of all, thank you for giving me a floor. It's a pleasure to welcome over here in Kazakhstan, specifically in the National Bank of Kazakhstan. As for your question, Takeshi, last September, the President Tokayev instructed financial regulators to, how to say it softer, to reconsider our approach to digital assets regulation, and we started to analyze what we actually had at that moment. And the status quo was we had a pretty amazingly developed dynamics in AIFC. As per the last year, I believe the circulation of regulated area in AIFC has reached around 10.5 billion USD equivalent, more than 10 VASPs with more than 500,000 users in that VASPs. But due to limitation of crypto in AIFC perimeter, the actual de facto market was much larger. Twice or triple times, nobody really knows, but it was de facto larger. We also have, meanwhile, the global regulations evolved all across the world, including the US, obviously, with Genius Act and Clarity Act. And we also witness the rise of tokenization all across the world. So in essence, we have three factors that shaped our approach to regulation. First is growing de facto market with so-called reverse regulatory arbitrage, when regulated players actually had less benefits than unregulated market players. The second factor is risks to financial and monetary sovereignty due to development specifically of USD-backed stablecoins for the reasons that Paul already told in his speech. And third, we are, as jurisdiction, betting on tokenization as a next standard of financial infrastructure globally. We do not believe that it's between tokenization and not tokenization. We believe that in the future, tokenization will be the only actual choice of financial infrastructure. So as a result, we developed the regulation. We allowed the crypto to circulate outside the AIFC perimeter all across the country. We increased limits to purge on-ramping, off-ramping crypto. We built regulatory framework for tokenization. I would say that was the most consequential decisions. Yep.
Thank you. So yeah, next I'd like to ask the same question to Leonard. So ARC has been building the digital asset framework since 2018. And what the change is the most important to you you made last year?
Well, thank you. First of all, good morning, everyone, and it's my pleasure to welcome the guests in Astana. I would say the changes first on the national level. I think there are two big changes. One, Binur kind of mentioned, is that the central bank, National Bank of Kazakhstan, instead of observer or light touch participants, became a leader in this industry and leading, as Binur said, in many directions, development of the digital financial ecosystem. Second is, I think, the signing of the constitutional law on Alatau city, yet to be, which is to become a city that is digitally native, and the implications are yet to be discovered, but I think that the changes will be big. If we talk about the AFC level, as you have Takeshi-san mentioned, we have been developing this market from 2018, so the biggest thing that happened for our jurisdiction was the thematic review by IOSCO of crypto and digital asset regulation in the many jurisdictions. Out of 130 jurisdictions that are part of members of IOSCO, they have chosen 20 leading jurisdictions who have regulation of digital assets, and AFC was among top 4 who have implemented all the recommendations of the IOSCO. That thematic review and the recognition given by IOSCO kind of put us on the league table of leading jurisdictions, and we already see that a lot of institutions are interested and they want to launch their businesses. We see global platforms, I cannot name them, but are applying for licensing in AFC. So that was the biggest thing for us.
Thank you so much. So the next will be Albik, and my understanding is that you are in charge of government digitalization. So from that perspective, how do you digital asset intersect with the Kazakhstan AI and the digital ecosystem, digital economy agenda, and also the most important change you made last year?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you for organizers for inviting me into this event. Everyone, international guests, welcome to Astana, Kazakhstan. Enjoy your staying here. So regarding this question, this year was named Year of AI and Digital Development of Kazakhstan. So for us, crypto industry and digital assets is not just a financial instrument, but it includes in our digital infrastructure alongside with AI, with data centers, energy. So in Kazakhstan, this field is not new. In 2023, President signed law on digital assets, which is comprehensive legal framework for development of this industry. And nowadays, idea is to move from theory to practical implementation. Just a few months ago, President Tokayev paid his first, bought his first product by paying with his crypto wallet, and we are actively working on development in of this field in our country.
Thank you. So, Arman, the same question, but a little bit, let me rephrase it a little bit differently, because Alatau City is kind of positioning as an innovation hub. And what is the one thing your authority or your organization is doing today that wasn't possible 1 to 2 years ago?
First of all, good morning to everyone. Thank you, the National Bank, for organizing this event and really for leading the agenda and policy in the digital asset area. Great to see so many familiar and unfamiliar faces. As you may know, the constitutional law on the special regime of Alatau city was signed into law by President Tokayev a month ago, on 8th of May. We are positioning ourselves as Web3 native, AI native, crypto native jurisdiction, but we're not a financial center. This is not our only area where we want to innovate and grow. we shouldn't forget that we are a real city with real citizens, with real businesses, and this is probably our distinguishing point, where we can actually connect the real world economy and the digital economy. Of course, we're not pioneers, thankfully. We stand on the shoulders of the National Bank and the AIFC, and in building our own regulatory architecture, our own approaches, we can rely on the experiences of those behind us, who came before us, and learn from their mistakes. And thankfully, we started almost at the same time. This latest initiative for the National Bank started in September. So we can actually, the 3 jurisdictions, we can actually coordinate amongst ourselves, use our strengths, use common efficiencies, maybe regulatory capacities, regulation to some extent, and we can build something on the one hand from scratch, but on the other hand very sound and strong in the area of digital assets.
Thank you for the answers and your introductions. I think now we understand what the difference among those 3 organizations and what they are doing. And the next round of questions, I'd like to highlight on the regulatory frameworks and structures of each organization and jurisdiction. And let's grasp the overall landscape in Kazakhstan. So Kazakhstan has NBK and AFSA within the AIFC and ARDFM. So all with roles in the digital asset. So each organization has some roles and responsibilities in the digital asset. So maybe we need to understand deeply what each organization, each authority is doing to regulate, to oversee the digital asset industry. So yeah, the next question, maybe starting with Binu. So NBK introduced the framework for digital asset back in 2023. And what categories of digital asset fall under NBK's oversight versus AFSA jurisdiction? And how do you handle digital asset that sits across the boundary?
Yeah, that's a minor correction. NBK started the regulation in this year, so because it previously was another regulators. It's interesting because we now have 5 regulators for digital assets industry. For mining, we have Ministry of AI and Digital Development. For the local onshore jurisdiction, we have NBK and ARDFM, which is Agency for Financial Supervision, actually for banking specifically, and other options. We also have AFSA in AFC for AFC, and we also have our Tau City administration. So many different regulators, but it's a synergy. As Arman already told, we are multi-jurisdiction country. So we have 3 jurisdictions with, I think, specific focuses for each jurisdiction, and which can benefit from crypto and tokenization. Because again, we're not implementing, or we're not trying to become a crypto hub just for the sake of being a crypto hub. We have a very pragmatic approach. We believe that crypto can actually be enabler of FDI and other forms of investment to economy. You know that, for example, some other adjacent jurisdictions to Kazakhstan has essentially become a huge crypto exchanges with a huge sanction and compliance risks. This is not a scenario that we want to follow. We want to build the mature crypto infrastructure so that the crypto can become much more functional than in other countries, so that the crypto capital actually works in the economy, so that the crypto creates new infrastructure, new jobs, and attract new capital. So that's like a country strategy. And every jurisdiction and every regulator has a part in this strategy. So if we're talking about for the NBK specifically, starting from this year, we not just as a central bank, we also, and payment regulator, we also crypto regulator. And that's like by design, helps us to integrate crypto with existing traditional financial infrastructure, making crypto much more functional. So we introduced new forms of digital assets, new taxonomy of digital assets, which is unbacked digital assets, crypto, foreign stable coins, etc. Stable coins denominated in tenge or issued by our operators. that might be foreign currency pegged as well. The third is real-world assets, essentially, and fourth is tokenized financial assets. So we have 4 categories of digital assets, each has own rules, and we have 2 categories of VASPs, essentially. The first is digital asset trading platforms, the second is tokenizers, digital assets platform. That's a very, I think, easy to follow regulation, somehow close to MiCA, somehow close to Genius Act, but of course with its own view. And as for cross-jurisdictional cooperation, we have multi-layered cross-jurisdictional cooperation. First, we have regulated gateways between, for example, AFC residents and our banks, so that the consumers of our banks can top up wallets, for example, in crypto exchanges regulated by AFC. And we it's cross-regulated by AFSA and NBK and RDA fund, for example. We also working on synergy between regulators in terms of exchange of information, cooperation of supervision. The idea is not to build a completely equivalent regulation. Of course not, because it's impossible. First of all, for example, AFC has a common law, we have a more traditional law. But the idea is to, again, to maximize synergy between jurisdictions, so that, for example, a global crypto company, which is get used to common law, can lend in AFC, but still operate with Kazakhstan market through this regulated crypto gateways. And then potentially in Alatau City can gain some, new features, because Alatau City essentially will become a super sandbox, right? Because in Alatau City we would allow some new activities that never will be allowed within the onshore jurisdiction for financial stability reasons, for example. For example, we will have a much easier current capital control measures in Alatau City, which would allow to crypto capital to flow into Alatau City development, and I think that's a beautiful thing. So, I can have many different examples, but the idea is very simple. As a country, we're building a functional crypto strategy, and our multi-jurisdictional nature allows us to make it really work.
Yeah, thank you so much for the comprehensive explanation. So next question is to Leonard. So I understand that FSA is regulating digital asset activities within the AIFC jurisdiction. So could you share a little bit more about its framework? And also, I have one specific question, which is how do you prevent regulatory arbitrage, which is also mentioned by Binur, the last question.
Well, thanks. I believe Binur didn't say the word arbitrage, right? So I have to be careful, because arbitrage means exploiting market inefficiencies to gain risk-free return, right? And I believe that this is not the case with our regulators. And I would add another regulator in Kazakhstan, which is the Agency for Financial Monitoring, our financial intelligence unit that monitors digital and crypto asset business from standpoint of preventing fraud and AML and etc. And I think this is not something unique. You go to UAE, you find probably even more regulators. Every emirate has its own regulator. In Dubai, they have 2, right? Even VARA separately, and within the AFC also they have their own regulation. And ADGM, you find another regulation, and any other emirate has their own regulation. So that's, I think, the working model. Anyway, going back is, again, I don't think that between our national regulation and AFC there is an arbitrage, because just the principles are different, right? AFC is a common law-based jurisdiction. So we, even like licensing-wise, we license activities rather than institutions. And as you have in previous questions mentioned, we have started regulating digital assets from 2018. But again, the real development came when NBK and RDFM have allowed to, or as a pilot project, to build this connection between the banks that they regulate and the exchanges that the AFSA in AFC regulates, because AFC itself is a non-cash jurisdiction. So the institutions licensed in AFC, they cannot accept cash, right? So they had to connect to the banks that are licensed in Kazakhstan. And in the full regime started, first the pilot was 2023, I believe. There was, the whole volume was 250, 60 million US dollars. And again, as Binur mentioned, now the last year, so within just 2 years, we have achieved 10.5 billion. And again, this really came when the jurisdictions started cooperating. We allowed the exchanges to connect. So as, again, we license the exchanges, crypto exchanges. We also license the exchanges of the tokenized assets. We give licenses for crypto service providers. We call them DASPs, so digital asset service providers, like digital brokers, digital asset managers, then payment systems, and etc. In some areas, yes, we have the company or the business has the choice whether they want to get licensed by the central bank, NBK, or they want to get licensed in AFC. I think that again gives the flexibility. As the whole market, it's still new, right? We are still discovering what kind of services can be provided, what are the instruments that will be demanded by the market. We have the frameworks for issuing tokenized assets, financial assets, real world assets. We have the regulation for stable coins, excluding stable coins on tenge, because again, tenge is regulated by the central bank, and I think that's the important underlying principle. So as you can see, then some of the regulation in traditional finance will be reflected in digital asset regulation, because again, this is just a tool, right? This is a technology. This is not, we're not changing the underlying principles of regulation. And again, with Alataw City, it's just the law is just 1 month since signing, but I think we'll be able to explore even more opportunities to develop different instruments, financial digital instruments. And we have our own sandbox, so every project kind of starts, every company pretty much, and then every instrument starts in a sandbox, then we allow to graduate. So again, I think that the spirit of collaboration, but at the same time flexibility of having few jurisdictions gives the opportunity to expand the market, to come up with the new solutions, and gives the room to innovation.
Thank you so much. So the next is Alibik. So your organization is sitting at the intersection of AI data and digital infrastructure. So what is your organization's mandate to shape the policy environment which is related to digital asset? So yeah, I'd like to know your, yeah.
So very important question. So just to explain to the audience, National Information Technologies is 100% subsidiary of the Ministry of AI and Digital Development. So ministry oversees not only AI and digital development, but also networks like GovTech, crypto industry, even aerospace industry is under our ministry. If our colleagues, National Bank, IFC, Agency of Regulation and Development of Financial Markets, Alataw City, they're working on the financial part of this field. We are working mostly on the digital infrastructure. So we are coordinating in making conditions like internet, data centers, compute, like power, to make this happen. Yeah, so this is basically like the simple explanation what we do.
Yeah, thanks so much. And Arman, so Alataw City operates as an economic special zone. And what regulatory privileges and flexibility does Alataw City provide for digital asset companies? And what regulatory requirements still applied?
Well, as Renat mentioned, our constitutional law is just 1 month old. We've now started working on a comprehensive Digital Assets Act of Alataw. Our constitutional law allows us to base our acts on the English and Welsh law. And it doesn't mean that we would simply replicate regulation in the UK. In fact, in the UK, the regulation is not, that advanced and that successful, but we can rely on good precedents in other common law countries, and that work has already started, as I mentioned. of course, we don't want to, we want to be complementary to what other jurisdictions in Kazakhstan are doing. We want to use our own strengths and our mandate under the law, and we see it in a lot of it in the capabilities and ability to tokenize real-world assets. Imagine that we expect billions and billions of dollars investments in infrastructure, real estate. And we expect large logistics hubs built in Alatau city, as it's at the crossroad of trading routes between China and Europe, right in the middle corridor. So opportunities for tokenization are immense. As Mr. Deputy Governor mentioned, we plan to use those opportunities to the fullest extent and provide tax incentives to market players, provide stable legal regime, modern regulation, yet risk-based, and this is, in a way, maybe a unique opportunity to develop digital assets, connect digital assets with the real economy that was not previously seen, not only in our region, but probably on the continent overall. That's it.
Yep. So then, I think we have a good understanding of the framework and the regulations. It's like a series. And then I'd like to talk about more on practices in licensing and enforcement. So yeah, let's ask in the same order to begin. So NBK has been deploying AML CFT standards for these asset operations. And in practice, what are the hardest compliance gaps you encounter in licensing, in license applications?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think I will try to give a broad answer, not specific probably challenges, but how we actually see supervision in this new blockchain-enabled economy. Obviously, AML CFT practices are quite different in crypto because the very nature of financial intermediation of practices is also different because it's blockchain-enabled. You don't have sometimes even intermediaries to regulate. You don't understand whom to ask what, right? But meanwhile, I believe blockchain open fundamentally new ways to supervision because of blockchain, because you have every transaction recorded at the blockchain, because it can enable new subtech, smart contracts, etc., etc. So essentially, the supervision, including AML CFT supervision, can be and should be completely data-centric in this new blockchain-enabled economy, and that is what we are trying to build here at the National Bank of Kazakhstan. And then we hope that the same data-centric subtech fabric can be shared across the supervisors in our country, including AFCA and Alatau City Administration and Agency for Financial Monitoring. The idea is, as a supervisor or regulator, you can actually deploy a node of popular blockchain protocol and see every transactions between different wallets. Now, the hardest part would be to attribute this wallet to actual entities, to people or businesses. But you still have solutions here, companies like Global Ledger, Chainalysis, etc. They do a fantastic job on the wallet intelligence. And once you have this KYT enabled, other components enabled, you actually can build a completely data-centric AML CFT with no reports, and I think which can enable a much better supervision practices even than in traditional financial infrastructure. And as the global financial as the global digital asset infrastructure mature with Genius Act implementation, with MiCA Act implementation, all that global KYT and KYC practices also will mature, the gap between in compliance between traditional financial infrastructure and DeFi infrastructure, blockchain-enabled infrastructure will shorten. And in the future, the blockchain-enabled infrastructure will be much easier to actually supervise than traditional financial infrastructure. And I think that's a matter of 5 or 10 years from now. And we, in Kazakhstan, I hope, can be one of the benchmarks globally how to enable this specific activity. So that's like a...
Okay, interesting. So the question to Leonard is more on the operation. So how many firms have gone through the FSA's digital asset licensing process, and what type of the profile of applicants? So I'd like to know who is operating and who is doing the business in the AIC.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'll give some exact numbers. We have now 32 licensed digital asset service providers that include the crypto exchanges, brokers, and etc. And I believe now Astana Financial Services Authority has 13 licenses that are under consideration, and we're just in the beginning of the June, so that there is a big chance by the end of the year number of the DASPs will increase more than 50%, hopefully this year. And in terms of the type of the licenses, most of the applications are for crypto brokerage services, but also we see that the number of applicants for payment service providers are increasing, including the license to issue stable coins. And that, I think, is in line what's happening globally, that more and more digital assets being used as a mean of payment, right? We've seen the growth of the USDT, USDC, and etc. So this is definitely big market. We have issued, I believe, 2 licenses for issuing stable coins, and 1 is being reviewed. In terms of the operating digital trading platform, meaning the exchange, there are less licenses now from startups. More global platforms are localizing, and we have few applications under consideration, because now it is difficult for new companies to create an exchange and be competitive globally. So again, there is more global companies. Local startups, part of this world, are focusing on, again, issuing stable coins, managing digital assets, and etc. Most of them, they come from through FinTech Lab. That's our sandbox. And in terms of where the applications fail, we have substantial number of applications that actually fail to get to the real license. It's pretty much always the same, and it's never technology. It always compliance and control. So the companies or the teams will come up with beautiful technology that is super efficient and etc., but with the compliance procedures that are far, far behind in terms of the readiness. It is the AML procedures, governance issues, source of wealth that do not go through the test and do not get through the to the application. And we have to maintain the very high standards in terms of the compliance, because that's what the value of regulation. The other market participants will come only if they understand that the level of regulation and the level of control in the jurisdiction are high enough so they feel safe, and because they know that if something goes wrong with one participant, that's going to have an effect on whole jurisdiction, that everyone will be affected. They do usually complain when when they apply and we ask more questions, but then when they get the license, they always ask to keep the bar high. For so it's always the same questions and same complaints.
Right. Thank you. So the question to Alibek. So it's a little bit specific, but it's on mining, because Kazakhstan has a significant crypto mining activities. So did it develop any kind of regulatory framework or regulations on mining?
Yes, so as Deputy Governor said before, mining is also one of our fields. As I said, in 2023 we got this law on digital assets, according to which mining becomes transparent and regulated field. So these days, in this framework, we licensing miners, we are registering the equipment, they are reporting how many digital assets they mined. We are also licensing mining pools. So the idea, as I said, to make this field transparent so they can make contribution to the development of our economy. And we're also planning to launch 70 by 30 program in which miners will contribute to the development of our energy stations. So they should, I mean, they can, there is some, what's it, coordination between them so that they can upgrade our energy stations. So our vision as a ministry is as this. So we love mining and we make it transparent and we want to make it more beneficial for our economy.
Right, thank you. So the question to Arman is, for companies who has actually setting up the entity in another city to operate the business in the digital asset space, and I'd like to know what is the onboarding process and how it works, and the key or most common challenges they are facing after getting license.
Yes. Well, as a general observation, I don't think we would be a wild, wild west jurisdiction, some honky-tonk or a loophole or anything like that, because when you have multiple jurisdictions in one country, you are only as strong as the weakest of you. So we owe that responsibility to the country as a whole, to the other jurisdictions. So most likely our system will look very similar to other modern jurisdictions. We'll do business risk assessment of digital products, of market players. We'll do, where necessary, enhanced due diligence for high-risk areas. We'll check the beneficial ownership. We'll check the systems that market players have, data security, privacy, client information protection, integrity of IT systems, and so on. We'll check officers with appropriate fit and proper tests, and so on. Maybe the difference would be that we would strive to use the most advanced software, including AI-powered software, to make the process obviously faster, easier for participants, more transparent and more convenient overall. In terms of the ongoing supervision, we would also have reporting, risk-based monitoring, and robust enforcement framework. Also, I have to say we have a very useful tool in the constitutional law. We can delegate some of the regulatory powers that, for example, we wouldn't have at the moment, wouldn't have expertise or wouldn't have people. We can delegate to other regulators, including the National Bank and AFSA in the AIFC. Also, we would have so-called experimental legal regimes, in a sense, sandboxes where you can test various products in a safe environment.
Great, thanks so much.
Arman, we'll put our best effort to make sure you don't become Wild West, because like FATF assessment, it's based on country level, right? So yeah.
I thought you just need the extra assurance.
All right, so the last round of the question is on ecosystem building side. So we talk about the regulation, actual practices, and then we need the ecosystem. As I said in the beginning, so Kazakhstan is building one of the most vibrant ecosystem for digital asset in this region. And this ecosystem building requires a lot of investment in infrastructure, talent, and building trust. So I'd like to ask each of you to answer this question. So how you build ecosystem together with the stakeholders in this country. So starting with being in the same order. So Kazakhstan is one of the few countries actively exploring the retail CBDC, and it's a digital tenge. And how does a digital tenge project interact with the private digital asset market?
Thank you for the question. So by design, CBDC in Kazakhstan and private tokenized money, digital financial assets, they designed to coexist and complement each other. So first of all, we have a segregation of different type of assets for different type of use cases. For example, CBDC is perfectly fit for operations when you have a high stakes operations where you need a credit risk-free money essentially. And I think things like public expenditures or settlement of institutional tokenized assets are the perfect use cases where you actually need CBDC as a almost credit risk-free money. But for the private market use cases, we are perfectly fine with local stable coins and other retail use cases. We are not trying to cannibalize this market using CBDC. So, and if we're talking, for example, about cross-border, you already have a huge B2B market in stable coins, for example. It's not like a piece of pie that we want to cannibalize for CBDC, but for certain type of cross-border operations, for example, between governments or within huge institutions, you would need CBDC just to ensure the safety, etc. So I think they perfectly complement each other. It's good to have everything at stage. I'm not quite an advocate of a unified ledger concept being pushed by Bank of International Settlements, which is quite beautiful idea of having unified ledger when you have a central bank which is settling everything, money, private money, assets. But I think it's somehow impossible to achieve in this modern world. So our idea is to try to decentralize power here, but still keep our eye through regulation, supervision, not being an operator ourselves everywhere.
Yeah. So my question is a little bit specific, but do you have anything else to be highlighted in terms of your ecosystem building?
Yeah, of course. The second, again, our bet is that crypto would work best in Kazakhstan if it would be integrated with traditional financial infrastructure on several layers of that infrastructure. First, payments. The idea is that, in essence, you can pay with your wallet anywhere. You can pay with your banking card, QR, or whatsoever. That's what we already have built. So you can issue crypto card in Kazakhstan. You can build with your wallet in QR terminals anywhere. The second component is integration on the exchanges layer. So, for example, Kazakhstan Stock Exchange now also an operator of digital asset platform. It can tokenize institutional assets, for example, bonds or equities, and then essentially exchange them, trade them on their platform. And I think that's also a good way to enable. And we also try to, and I think what would be the hardest part to do is to build a new compliance culture. Because in the end of the day, any crypto asset would need a fiat leg. And fiat leg, it's bank or payment service providers. And currently, the compliance culture and view of most of the banks and payment service providers is that crypto is something gray or something bad, or we have some sanctions, a screen, etc. And the idea is to help, together with the market, to build a proper compliance culture so that the compliance in banks and PSPs can differ from like a good crypto traffic and bad crypto traffic. And I think that's a part of ecosystem that we have to focus in the coming time. Yeah.
Yep, thank you. So the question to Leonard is more on international collaboration and harmonization, because AFC has bilateral agreement with other jurisdictions. So which international relationships and collaborations are the most strategically important for building Kazakhstan as a digital asset hub?
Yeah, thanks. Given that we are an international financial center, our focus, we also want to serve the local market and provide solutions for the local market, but it also connecting it to the global market and what's happening in many other jurisdictions. So the idea when creating IFC was actually to make sure that it becomes part of the global financial system that helps for capital to flow in the economy. So in digital assets, we have the same focus. Our regulator has, for now, I think, almost 60 different MOUs, bilateral MOUs, but also is a signatory of a multilateral MOU and enhanced multilateral MOU of the IOSCO, International Organization of Securities Commissioners. So that gives a really broad network of connection. First of all, this is to make sure that we can exchange information, best practices. Second, of course, with that we can regulate the cross-border transactions and then the companies that operate in multi-jurisdictions. Because when you don't have the efficient information of exchange between the regulator, that creates for the not good companies to exploit that misconnect between the regulators and use the differences in jurisdictions to exploit the market. And of course, third, it helps us to promote AFC as the not just regional but international hub, and especially in the digital asset space, because in traditional assets it's difficult to catch up with the established, well-established financial centers like London, New York, and everyone else, right? But in digital assets, which is the pretty much new space, I think that gives really the opportunity to leapfrog into the top league of the financial centers, and that's what we've been trying to do. If to speak about the particular jurisdictions, of course the Gulf region is very important. That's why we enhancing this relationship and MOUs with the VARA, with the DIFC, with ADGM, and now with the emerging financial centers like Oman, with the Qatar, and etc. But also in Asia, have a good relationship with MAS in Singapore. They are one of the leading, again, regulators of fintech and digital asset space. Hong Kong is kind of just starting to develop this space. I believe that they have recently given 2 licenses to the well-established banks to work with the digital assets. So, but we have very good relationship with the Hong Kong, with the HKMA. So hopefully they will also help us to develop this market. And with, of course, Cyprus and broader Europe, because European market is also very important. So this is probably the main jurisdiction that we focus on. Again, Asia broadly, Europe, and of course Central Asia, where we believe we lead the way.
Thank you. Hopefully, Japan also can build a closer collaboration with you. And the question to Albert is, so digital infrastructure such as connectivity, data centers, cloud capacity underpins the competitiveness of the digital asset space in its jurisdiction. So what is the Kazakhstan's current infrastructure position, and where its investment being directed? So I'd like to know your ecosystem building activities in the infrastructure level.
Yeah, infrastructure is very important for both like digital assets, crypto, and AI. So in this 5-layer AI cake, you have like energy, infrastructure, chips, and we are developing this field. One interesting project that is going right now, we are launching data centers valley near to Astana. So it will be valley of, I mean, as the name said, of data centers, where we will put chips for AI and for maybe mining. So why this project is happening right now? First of all, as you know, Kazakhstan has a very large amount of resources. Energy is very cheap there. So the cost of energy is like 2.5 cents per kilowatt. Also, the weather here near Astana is kind of cool. It's very good conditions for GPUs and chips for mining and for all these data centers. And we are planning to attract top like notch hyperscalers to this area. And we also plan to give a special tax regime for these hyperscalers, So they come, invest, and they get, I mean, all conditions that they need. And the idea is to have 1 gigawatt power on this data center valley in total. Yeah, and second part is also energy. As I said in my previous speech, that we are launching special programs to attract private investments to the energy generators, such as like 70-30 program, so that miners can invest their money to improve energy generators, and they can share their profit. Yeah, so as a ministry, we're working hardly in this field.
Thank you. So the question to Arman. So Leonardo talked about the collaboration with the Gulf region or other Asian international financial cities, but at the same time, they are kind of competitors from the other cities' perspective. So what is Kazakhstan's value proposition when it comes to the competition with other international financial centers or economic special zones?
Well, obviously, the jurisdictions you mentioned are well developed, well established, and have some market history. Said that, recent geopolitical events in the region probably give our region a window of opportunity to some extent as a stable geopolitical region to actually attract some industry players from there with similar regulatory framework, but probably with better tax benefits and a better regulatory regime without legacy issues. Obviously, we need to pick our fights, the battles we fight. We should use our natural strengths. As a large logistics hub, Alatau city may be a center for stable coins and settlements in stable coins, given large trade flows. As I mentioned before, we can be a leader in tokenization. Again, considering that there are real world assets to tokenize, real transactions, real infrastructure development, and large investment inflows. So we hope on those narrow and thin points, and also using historical opportunities, we can strive, and we can take our niche in the global market.
Right. Okay, thanks so much. And actually, we are running the time, but let me take one question from the floor. Okay.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the thorough presentation. I think that coming from the outside, I was struggling to understand a little bit the different regimes, but now it's clear. I just have one remaining question that I'm struggling. Like, my understanding was that if a foreign entity is coming into Kazakhstan, I will need to go via the national bank for the licenses. However, if I am a local entity, then I go via the AFC, but it sounds that it's not like that, because I can go to either or. So what will be like the selection process? Is something that I as an entity has the capability to decide according to my preference, which I will agree there is arbitrage, or there are like some objective requirements under which you made that selection for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, it's entity who decides where to go, and it's absolutely voluntary. And it's not always either or. You can have both, and it really depends what you want, because essentially it's a menu, right? Or the entity wants a menu, the access to local infrastructure, or the common law, or the better limits. It really depends. It would require some research on the entity side, but on our side, we are more than happy to help you arrange the best probable approaches. But again, it's not exclusionary. You can have both. but it really depends on the business model you want to follow here.
Yeah, and Astana International Financial Center is not just a financial regulator, it's beyond, it's also jurisdiction for incorporation. So, for example, if you want the common law, you want the English language, and you want the corporation forms that are exist in other jurisdictions, not the Kazakh legal forms, usually they come to AFC, and then they apply for licenses either in central bank or with us. I think that there could be the good example is Binance. It's a global company. It's incorporated in AFC. It has a license from us, but it's also launching some projects jointly with the NBK. So that probably is a good example.
I have a question for Arman, actually. Thank you for sharing what you're building with Alatao. I think it's really fascinating. And as you said, actually, there are a lot of opportunities ahead that probably we cannot even imagine now. So we are building the underpinning infrastructure on the top of which many things can happen in the future, right? So I want your comments on what happened last week in Argentina. And what do you think about Milei proposition? So he introduced a new legal category of non-human driven corporations that can run business and operate financial markets. So we are talking about agents AI that can have a legal personhood. Do you think this is a risky direction that Alatao want to take, or what is your opinion?
Well, it's probably too early to comment, or not even mentioning to adapt this interesting model. I think we need to study it. Obviously, we are open to new ideas. We are quite, entrepreneurial in a good sense. So let us study. Maybe they try it in Argentina first.
So thank you so much for this super engaged discussion. And last question to all of you. It's a super simple and one sentence each, super short. So what do you want to the audience here to take away from today's discussion? Any of you?
Just remember the name, Alatao City. It's huge. It's our country project. So we are all want to invest in it, and that's going to be, I hope, the global leading crypto hub in the world.
Stay tuned for the news from AFC, but better join to be among the newsmakers.
So maybe I would say not from this panel, but overall, as I am managing director for AI, use AI, learn AI. I tried not to talk about AI, but it's my field, so we can discuss separately. So this is my recommendation to all the audience. I think you said that AI can disrupt this blockchain technology as well. Yeah, and it's very important to learn AI.
Yeah, I guess keep an eye on the AFC, but follow the advice from the deputy governor.
So you enjoyed today's discussion, and please another round of big applause today. And yeah, please enjoy the rest of the workshop today and tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Such a vibrant discussion. And now let's get recharged with some coffee. We'll be back here in a quarter of an hour, 15 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. I'm happy to introduce the next panel after this very thorough and very interesting, especially for foreigners, I guess, discussion that has taken place before. We will be talking about the market perspective of this compliance infrastructure. So the market perspective will be moderated by the one and only Juan Ignacio Ibanez. He's running. How many kilometers have you made?
That was a quick run.
Thank you so much. And please welcome the panelists, Magnus Jones, Gani Uzbekov, Natalia Romenskaya, and Miguel Vaz. I'll leave you all make your introductions. Yes.
Hello, hello. Okay, there we are. Well, thank you very much. Thank you to the P2P Financial Systems International Workshop for inviting us to be here. We are going to be discussing regulation, compliance, and as we heard just from the AIFC a moment ago, regulation, compliance is where most of the licensing applications fail. It's not the technology, right? So it's a really, really important topic that we're going to be trying to cover today. And we are bringing a different perspective. We just heard from the authorities, the supervisors. Now we're going to be hearing from the people in the trenches, working, building, not in an opposing, but in a complementary perspective. So we're going to start, of course, with a round of introductions. My name is Juan Ibanez. I'm the General Secretary of the MiCA Crypto Alliance. I think most of you might be familiar with MiCA, but just to remind you, or the few of you that might not know, MiCA is Markets in Crypto Assets, is the EU regulation for crypto that we just heard from MBK mentioned that there's similarities across jurisdictions in these regulations. And the Alliance is an organization to help projects comply, to help fill gaps with the regulation. With regulation, there's always gaps, and coordinated action in the face of those gaps by the market is quite important, and to raise the standard and stimulate best practices when those gaps exist. With that, very pleased to be here, but the spotlight is for these wonderful panelists who I'm going to ask to introduce themselves. So maybe starting with Gani.
Hi, my name is Gani. I'm founder CEO of SilkPay, a fintech company. We have 2 licenses. One of them from Astana Financial Supervision Authority, and one we have license from National Bank of Kazakhstan, and we have company in Abu Dhabi Global Markets.
Hi, Miguel Vaz. I run a MiCA-regulated crypto custodian out of Germany. We were the second one from BaFin 5 years ago to get a crypto custody license. And we work mostly on the institutional side of business, doing depository functions on crypto assets for funds.
Hello, my name is Natalia Romenskaya. I run Paynexa, which is the issuer of stablecoin and organizing cross-border payments here. And we work within the National Bank regulatory sandbox. So I'm based in Almaty and Dubai, and I work with this market since 2022, just when it started in Kazakhstan.
Hi, my name is Magnus Jones. I'm based in Oslo in Norway. I do 3 things. I do consulting on everything from the DeFi players, the DAOs, the DEXs, the decentralized landscape on one side, to banks, central banks and governments on the other side. Board role positions, including Nordic Blockchain Association that I represent today, and also a startup on digital identity. Previous to that, I started EY, Ernst & Young's blockchain department in Norway in 2015, and has been working very broad in this landscape. Also part of the Metaverse expert group of Interpol, part of the counterterrorism group of Crypto for the United Nations, and also a crypto expert to the OEC.
Well, thank you very much. And as you can see, we have a blend of mixes. some of the loudest and most important voices in Europe as well as in Kazakhstan. I mean, I've heard that if you work in Kazakhstan, you must have met Natalia at one point, same with Gane here. So I want to start by, I want to start with Miguel. Miguel, obviously, you just mentioned you're based from Germany. You are supervised by BaFin, but I'm sure you look at other jurisdictions as well. So we're going to start discussing some challenges and then also look at compliance as a competitive advantage. When you're looking into other jurisdictions, obviously there's a number of factors you take into account, some market-based, but I'm sure you'd look at the regulation, at the compliance risk. What factors do you take into account?
So if I look at it from a market perspective, compliance for me is like a synchronization engine. So there's nobody offering financial assets to investors that works alone. So a one-stop shop solution sounds good until you have to start working in the market. And then you have to know whether the partners that you have to work with or that you choose to work with also abide by the same rules. So for me, compliance is more or less something like the cost and safety of doing business. That's table stakes capabilities. And when I look at a regulation, we look mostly for certainty and for the cost, right? So is the regulation clear? Do we know what's coming to us? Do we know who the regulator is? How many licenses do I need in order to operate a business? Because digital assets tends to be overregulated because of a new form for an existing function. And so that's more or less the things that we look. So how do we estimate the cost of doing business there? And how certain are we of that estimate?
And let me follow up on that by asking actually something to Magnus. So Magnus, I'm sure you have your own opinions on this as well, but also you bring a Nordic perspective on this, and we're very interested in the jurisdictional comparison here. But are there any lessons? So Miguel just mentioned factors to take into account, cost, but sometimes, things are not all at present. There could be ticking bombs, there could be things that explode in the future. Is there anything that you think in Central Asia, based on your experience, we should be considering for the future, based on the Nordic experience?
Well, I think you mentioned it well, of certainty is one of the key things. And this is what is very relieving to hear from the first talks here also, that you at least have a framework, and also relating to coming from the tax side. That's also a key thing, that you have clarity on how to actually do the business from the operational side. Having said that, it's not only about, call it the framework per se, or the compliance frameworks in itself, it's also the rest of the infrastructure. If you look into, for example, Malta, as one example, who has been the crypto island, well, they said they welcome to the crypto island at the airport, but the Bank of Valletta, they were not particularly interested to give you a bank account. So it's also these things you need to take into consideration. If you want to build up, like it was mentioned here on stage, do you want to become a hub? You also need to ensure, do you have auditors, do you have accountants who is willing to take the assignments, but also do they actually have the knowledge in it? So I think that's one of the most important things, to ensure that also all parts of the ecosystem are aligned and that they actually have the knowledge. So like you mentioned, to put it into the perspective of the Nordics, I think what we see here or hear about the collaboration between financial authorities, central banks, etc., is also key. So as an anecdote from the Norwegian side, when you mentioned the MiCA, the Markets and Crypto Asset Regulation Framework, we got this one in Norway as well. We're not members of the EU, but we're members of the EEA, the European Economic Area. And in some manner, it's implemented into Norwegian law. And when the FSA had dedicated 2 persons, allegedly, to get that framework into Norwegian law, it was just 2 random persons who were elected and said, well, we can do translation from English to Norwegian and put it into law, but please don't bother us when we have to do the application processes. So what happened is that the Norwegian central bank called up me and said, Magnus, have you heard rumors about these 2 new persons from the FSA? It's like, yes. Do you know who they are? And that was more like, aren't you the central bank in a direct line to the FSA? No. So this is also down to one clear example of how important it is for the relevant stakeholders to actually have a dialogue and understand the landscape.
Yeah, and I think we just saw in the previous panel what that dialogue can look like, a good thing to aspire to. And I like that